welcome to the show. I'm your host, John, and this is the Southern Constitutionalist. So, sorry if I look a bit rough this evening. It's actually been kind of a rough day. So you might be able to see it. Sorry if you can. But I'm doing better than I was this morning. So they had some discussions, I guess it was yesterday, on social media. Or kind of sort of a social media, a little app called Nextdoor. Wasn't really meant to be a social media thing, but it's kind of turning into that. I don't care for the way that's going, but there's not really much that I can do about it. But it allows you to communicate more with people that are in your community near you versus all over the freaking world. But one of the groups I'm in, there's kind of a discussion, and people have asked questions and given their responses and things like that. Not to mention I was out last night with this really amazing, wonderful person. And while we were out, we caught a little bit of a couple of, I guess, talk shows on the radio or whatnot that posed some questions that were kind of entertaining to me. And there's a podcaster that that I listen to on a semi-regular basis. He had some interesting thoughts on something similar to one of the discussions. I'll get into both of those just because I thought they were interesting. Provided I don't forget, because got Swiss cheese brain right now. But I know y'all don't like me smoking, but sorry, but yeah, I'm a heavy smoker. But the question that's been floating around in these discussion groups, people are asking the question, if the vaccine can be mandated, as it looks like some places and entities are trying to do. And off the top of my head, my immediate answer would have been, no, they can't do that. To be perfectly honest with you, as a straight up answer with no explanation, that answer is right, but it's also wrong. And I'm going to explain. It's kind of the primary reason why I started this video. I think this is a discussion that needs to be had. Alright, so I guess the top of the list would be, can it be federally mandated? I would have to say no without actually digging into it. No, I don't believe it can be federally mandated. Even though that is one of the discussions going on, and supposedly the DOJ has said that it can be, I don't believe it can be. State mandated, yes. Here's the reason I say that, and I know some of y'all are going to jump right off and say, no, you're wrong, there's no way. That's not constitutional, blah, 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 blah. While others are going to say, I don't care if it's constitutional or not, it needs to be. Okay, here's the discussion that a lot of people, for some reason, don't really take into consideration, okay? We do have mandatory vaccinations. Now, there are exemptions, religious and medical, and there's 2 or 3 other major categories, but there's probably a dozen or 2 dozen minor. That's the situation of it. Are those mandatory vaccinations mandated by the federal government? No, they're not, to my knowledge. It varies from state to state. That I know for a fact, because I know people who've moved to South Carolina from out of state. And while the kids were up to date on their vaccinations where they came from, when they moved here, they actually had to go and get other vaccinations that their previous state did not require. And I've had friends who've done the same thing, moved out of South Carolina, whereas their kids were vaccinated and up to date here. When they got to where they were going, they were not. So it varies from state to state, locality to locality, maybe. Can it be mandated? Yes. Does that mean that it should be? I really can't say. I don't know, and I'm not even going to get into that. Now, here's the key, though. For those vaccines that are mandatory or mandated, especially for like schools and kids, yes, there are exemptions. Those are also approved and were approved by FDA, CDC, so on and so on, before they were mandated. They were not on an emergency use or whatever. Okay, so there's that one. The flip side of that is the vaccine that a lot of people are worried about, and they're all up in arms about, or debating and undecided and so on. That vaccine currently is on an emergency use basis, but it looks like it could be FDA approved as early as next month. So I don't know if it's going to be one certain one, two certain ones, or all three, or however many are available here in the US. So once that approval is given by the FDA, states can start mandating them. Now people are going to ask questions about what's going on in New York City, not New York State. And a lot of people are talking about New York State and Cuomo for other reasons. New York State has not mandated it. New York City has. The mayor has. Does he have that ability? I don't know. I don't do a lot of research on New York. I honestly don't give two shits about New York. I don't even have a desire to go visit New York. I don't like cities. And New York isn't just a city. It's not just a large city. It's actually what's called a mega city. As far as I'm concerned, New York and California can do whatever the hell they want. I actually wouldn't mind them being kicked out of the union. That wouldn't hurt my feelings at all. Sorry for people that are from California or in California. There's just too much weirdness out there. But that's just me and my taste. As far as de Blasio mandating it, I don't know. Is he going to get backlash? Well, obviously, because he's already getting it, first of all. And second of all, I believe the statistical numbers are that some between 60 and 70% have refused the vaccine. And a lot of them are inner city, low income minorities. Before you guys start jumping on the bandwagon or you start arguing, whatever, I can't say that I blame them. Think about the Tuskegee Project, not the Tuskegee Airmen. Unlike the current president, Tuskegee Airmen are something very different from the Tuskegee Project. And the people involved did not overlap. But the Tuskegee Project, and that's not the only project or research study that has that, whatever you want to call it. There are other projects, historical projects, and research studies, whatever you want to call it. Along those lines, that's just the most famous one. I want to say it's also the one that had the largest population, but I might be wrong on that as well. And that's one of the reasons why they question it. Now, can you blame them? I don't blame them. I feel like they have every right to question it. I think that anybody and everybody has a right to question it. And I think it should be the FDA and the government, as well as the pharmaceutical companies' job and responsibility to honestly answer those questions. Now, will you get honest answers from them? I don't know. I feel like probably not, but I honestly don't know. Again, that's just my opinion. But yes, once it's FDA approved, it can be mandated. Is de Blasio going to get blowback? Like I said, he's already getting it. It's going to get a lot worse for him too. That's obvious. And with him restricting, no indoor activities, concerts, pavilions, restaurants, access being denied to just about everything that's indoor, it's disproportionately affecting a minority race, even though it kind of sort of sounds like it's supposed to be a generalized edict. It disproportionately affects different groups, protected classes. So will it hold up to muster in the Supreme Court? I don't think so. If they take an honest look at it, I don't believe so. In my criminal justice classes, strongly suggests and leans towards it's not going to hold up. Does that mean they're going to rule that way? No, it doesn't. That's just another one of those wait and see. Because it's not really, as far as I can tell, it's not really meant to target a certain protected class or anything, even though it indirectly, effectively does. It's not written in a way that it's supposed to, or it's not declared in a way that it's supposed to. So I don't know. That's one of those things that somebody who's much smarter and experienced than me is going to have to dig through the order as is written and determine what the writing and the words actually say. And that's about all I can really give you. So, there's that. And that's about all I can really think of right now on that topic. So I guess I'll leave that topic there. You guys can comment below if you're looking at this on social media, or you can go to theconstitutionalconfederate.com, click on contact, leave me a message, let me know what you think, argue for or against. And I want to hear what your arguments are, not just say that I don't agree or I do agree. I want to know what your reasonings are, possibly even a reference, if you have them. Yeah, I know. I'm sitting here asking you for a reference, but I didn't give you any. You can give me your personal experience as well, because I gave you my personal experience. I'll take that too. I just want to know what your thoughts are, your reasoning for or against. So there's this yeah, no reason for that, but okay, whatever. There's a podcast that I listen to somewhat regularly, and he likes to reference chickens because he likes chickens. He's got a bunch of them, so on and so forth. And this radio show that I was listening to last night, it's not one that I listen to a whole lot. But somebody posed the question to the host about if you were to pack up and leave because you don't agree with the way things are going, find an island or a large piece of land or something and purchase it and take people with you, what would your male-female ratio preference or reasoning or whatnot be? Of course, the question was also, when the question was posed, they also said you couldn't do a 1-for-1, one male for one female. So, thinking about that, and thinking about the chicken situation slash story, you know, the entertaining thought was 2 guys for every girl or woman. And my thought process was, well, that would be great for self-defense or whatnot. The guys can arm up, go and defend the community, whatever as needed. And you would probably have enough men survive to repopulate regardless of how many died, provided you won. That was my initial thought. But as I was thinking about it, if you're talking about repopulation in any kind of a situation, whether it was some kind of a conflict or a plague or whatever, a better ratio would actually be 2 women to every guy. And that's because regardless of how many guys die, as long as there's more women, you can actually repopulate within 1 to 2 generations. You can have 2 women, 10 women, 12 women, 15 women, whatever, to every 1 guy, and repopulate fairly quickly. Guys can fertilize multiple women, and they can pop out kids in record numbers. Whereas if you had 2 males to every female, you know, it takes time for the women to give birth as well as raise and teach the children, which slows down the process, takes longer. So if you had 2 males to every female, only half of the males would probably be able to reproduce. It thins out the genetics, so to speak. Waters down your genetic pool. But it's going to take longer for your population to grow anyway. You know, with 2 females to every male, 2 or more females to every male, you've got a much larger genetic pool, as well as being able to grow the population a lot faster. That's what the chicken guy had to say. And he's right, you know. His reference was that, you know, usually within a flock you'll have, I think farmers have said that your ratio is usually about 8 hens to every 1 rooster. And say you've got 8 hens and 1 rooster, say that's your ratio. Or say you've got 3 roosters and 8 hens. Now you're gonna have some infighting between the roosters, naturally, because you usually need to have more. All the roosters want to populate, although there is a pecking order. You've got 1 alpha, and then you've got the other 2. Because they do settle all of that internally. There's a reason it's called a pecking order. But he's the one who referenced, because even if a hawk comes from above, while most of the hens will go and take cover, unless there's babies, it's the rooster who will actually go and throw himself at the predator, hawk, cat, bob, lion, whatever. And he's willing to sacrifice himself for their protection, because they can repopulate, provided there's fertile eggs already. If he's the only male, there's already fertile eggs that they're sitting on. They can repopulate. And he knows this. So the flock's going to continue. If you have 3, 4, 5 roosters, 8 roosters and 1 hen, if something happens to that 1 hen, males can't repopulate. That's just scientific facts. something else I was gonna think about, or that I was gonna talk to y'all about that was kind of sort of entertaining, but I can't remember what it was. I don't know. It's all right. We're about 20 minutes, so I can end it here. Yeah, I guess I'll just end it here. I don't know. I can't really think of much right now. My head's starting to hurt again. So I'm just going to say you guys have a good night, and I will try to get this up tonight. Might not be until tomorrow morning, depends on how I feel. And until I see you again, you guys watch your 6.